Hello everyone. So today I kind of want to do another discussion video with you folks. I kind of like doing these kind of videos every now and then just to see if we're all on the same page or just to see where everybody is at, you know what I'm saying? And I figured this video would also be a good opportunity to give my personal thoughts and opinions on where I personally think that the gaming industry is at, and I would like to explain my worries for the game industry and what I think needs to change. So, with that out of the way, let's get on with the topic of this video. So, there's been a lot of controversy going around online due to the fact that we're pretty much heading towards a digital only future, and this is starting to really concern a lot of people going forward with video games. And there's a couple good reasons why people are starting to get really worried, because now we're starting to get to a point where technology is just getting so advanced. It's starting to get to the point where these corporate companies are starting to think like, do we really need to make physical copies of these games anymore? Because people are just getting these products digitally at home, so why even bother making the physical product when we can just make it digitally? The biggest issue with going fully digital is the fact that you won't be able to really play your games anymore once the servers get shut down. And I talked about this in my last discussion video talking about the game industry, and I still stand by this worried statement. What happens if the servers shut down? You won't be able to get access to those products you bought digitally. I mean, it's already been proven time and time again, and Sony has proven the dangers of going fully digital a long time ago. And this continues to make me even worried even more, because if you, let's just say, if you bought a movie or another video game digitally, and let's just say this for example, if Sony decides to shut down the servers for the PS4 or the PS5 tomorrow, for example, and they just say, you know what, we're done. So, all those products you bought digitally, yeah, you won't get access to them because we shut down the servers. So we're pretty much just going to take away those products that you paid money for. I don't know if most of you folks know about this, but for those of you that don't know, when you buy a game digitally, you don't realistically own that digital product. You're just buying a temporary license just to play that game. You're just buying a license to play the game. You don't realistically own that digital product, because if you want to play your games digitally and the servers get shut down, you won't really be able to get access to that game. Let's just make this an example. Fortnite, okay? The gameplay that you're seeing on screen. If Epic Games decides to shut down the servers one day because they don't make enough money, for example, then I would not be able to play Lego Fortnite, and the servers would just be dead. So, realistically, if you want to try to play Fortnite, but you can't log into the game is pretty much dead. Like, there's no preserving these kind of games. Now, of course, this is where physical media comes into play. Because let's just say this, for example. If you have a copy of Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered and you own the game physically, you can realistically play that game whenever you want. But if you bought it digitally, and let's just say if you bought it digitally for Xbox, and let's just say that Xbox decides to shut down the servers tomorrow, for an example, you won't realistically be able to get access to that game you bought digitally. But if you bought the game physically, like if you bought a hard copy, then you can realistically play that game as much as you want because you own the game physically. Now, I know I'm probably going to go off track here for a moment, but this is my personal stance on what I think about digital games. If I can't find a physical copy for a certain video game that I really, really, really want, then I'll just get the game digitally as a last resort if I have trouble finding it. Let's just say in my local game store, if I can't find a physical copy of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and they're just sold out everywhere, I'll just get it digitally as a last resort. But fortunately, I did get a hard copy for that game, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that was my first and probably my only $70 game I bought. I mean, I also did get Baldur's Gate 3 for Christmas, but I got that when it was on like sale, so I mean, there's that. But I mean, even then, like Tears of the Kingdom and Baldur's Gate 3, those are like the two games that I got that are like worth $70. And this is another thing that I don't understand. Why do digital games cost just as much, if not even more, than physical games? Like, that's something I just don't understand personally. Is it because of price inflation that's going on around the world? Or is it because they're trying to save people the hassle of going out to the store and instead of buying the game physically, they want people to buy it digitally to save themselves some time? Like, I just don't really understand that. Now, I definitely said this before in my one of my previous videos, but I'm going to say it again. I don't think you folks can tell, but in my hands right now, I'm pretty sure you can hear that, but I'm holding a physical game in my hand, and it's Wargroove. It's one of my top 3 favorite video games of all time. My first favorite is Castle Crashers Remastered, which I wish there was a physical copy for. My second favorite game is Smash Bros. Ultimate. And my third favorite game is Wargroove. And to be honest, I think I enjoy Wargroove more than Smash Bros. Ultimate, and that's actually surprising to me, but the physical copy of Wargroove in my hand, I own the physical game, and I can play this whenever I want. And I don't need to rely on a live service or a digital library to enjoy this game. And I can play this game as much as I want because I own the physical copy. I'm just going to put this back on my shelf real quick. There we go. The point I'm trying to make here is that corporate companies want us to get comfortable with this digital only future so they can decide whether or not we can get comfortable playing these games or not. And if they have another massive product out there that they want people to move on to, they can just pull the plug on our last gen consoles whenever they want, and any digital games that are attached to your online account that you want to try to re-download or play, they're pretty much going to be non-functional at this point. And it's just going to continue to worry me. And here's another big red flag that I see. What if the next big product that these companies make flops? Like, what will happen then? I mean, let's look back at the Wii U for a second. That was supposed to be like a home console, right? And unfortunately, that console failed miserably. I don't even remember any of my friends talking about this console or even playing the games on those consoles because it just didn't really work too well. More people were just sticking with the Nintendo Wii back in the day because that was much better. And nobody really liked the Wii U. But here we are now in 2024 where we have the Nintendo Switch and it's such a massive success for Nintendo. But what happens if Nintendo's next major console comes out and it flops? People are just going to go back to the Nintendo Switch or their Nintendo GameCubes or Wiis for the sake of game preservation and just play their older games on there instead, because the newer games coming out nowadays are just either digital only or they just are just mediocre as hell and they're just released unfinished and buggy and broken and just unplayable. Or people are just gonna play it for like 30 minutes and be like, alright, I'm already done with this, so I'm just gonna go back to one of my older games and just not play the newer games again. From my personal experience with the PS5, I really haven't had an interest of really playing any of the newer games out there, especially because there's just nothing that really interests me. The only games that I were genuinely interested in for this current generation was playing Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart and playing Baldur's Gate 3. Those are the two only next generation games that I was interested in. The other games that I play are from my PS4, which are backwards compatible for my PS5, fortunately, so I'm able to play those games on there. And this is another thing I wanted to talk about for a quick second. It just seems like backwards compatibility is becoming more of a requirement with newer consoles going forward. And let's just say this, if Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo presented brand new consoles tomorrow with new games, and those consoles are backwards compatible, and let's just say the newer games all suck, I think more people would use their backwards compatible games on the newer consoles instead of playing the newer games, because the newer games, we've seen this time and time again, it's just going to come out riddled with plot problems. It's going to be unplayable for 6 months. Well, we have to wait for patches. Like, no one's going to really be waiting for these kind of patches for these newer games anymore, because we would rather play a fully finished product right then and there. Here. Because either we have the physical copies to play the games backwards compatible, or we can just go to our older consoles and play those older games right then and there, because they're all polished and they all have the content that was promised on at day one. I don't know what it is with physical media, but I've said this before and I'm gonna say it again. Physical media, it desperately needs to make a comeback, and soon, because at this point, with the current direction that the game industry is going in, game preservation at this point, it's on life support, and it desperately needs some massive assistance, and it needs some massive attention, because physical media, if physical media dies off, then I think the entire player base in the entire game industry would be in a massive state of depression. And hopefully that does not happen, but it kind of looks like we're heading in that direction. So, with this being said, thank you everyone for watching and for listening. I know this was a different video than what I normally make, but I still wanted to talk about my thoughts and opinions on where I think the game industry is at going forward. So, what do you folks think? Do you think the game industry is in a good spot or in a bad spot? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And with this being said, thank you all for watching. I apologize for rambling. And until next time, I'm giving my thoughts and opinions on where I think the game industry is going. And I will see you all later.